There's a lot of confusion about grains. I think that we are really in a time where we're a little bit confused about gluten. Has it not got gluten in it? If it hasn't got gluten, is it still a grain? Well, I'm going to just try and straighten a few things out for you. First of all, buckwheat. We use buckwheat a lot at Dr Gaye, and buckwheat is not a wheat, it's not a grain, just to confuse you. It's actually part of the rhubarb family, it's a seed. So that's fine for anyone who doesn't want to have grains. But one of the reasons why grains aren't great is because in terms of us as a species, grains are quite a new food. It happened really when we stopped being hunter-gatherers and we started to farm. And it's because it's a cash crop, so we can grow a lot of it quickly and it feeds us en masse. But you may notice that if you are eating grains, a lot of your meals involve bread or some kind of pastry or biscuits, something that's grain-based. And of course that's really cheap filler. And what that does, often it irritates our bowel and makes us have sometimes IBS, some bloating, some weight gain, because it's a new food, we're eating too much of it. And also the other thing is because it's not really anything like the grains we were eating in the past, they tend to be hybrid, they tend to be overbred so that they avoid disease. So we're eating such a new food, it's not that great. Okay, a little bit sometimes isn't that bad, but grains per se are something you want to really minimise in your diet. Now if you have to have a grain, you think about wheat being the most hybrid version, the most changed up version of anything that we eat, right the way down to something like spelt or rye. Definitely spelt is probably the older version of those grains. Different types of grains affect us differently, and oats are still part of that grain picture. Even though it might say gluten-free oats, they're still a grain, which is why we at Dr Gaye don't use them. But you just might want to just become more aware of how many grains you're eating and how you feel. Sometimes it takes 3 days for the body to register how you feel after eating a meal. So it's not instant. So if you start to feel bloated 3 days after you had a mammoth pizza, you don't forget that it might have been the pizza 3 days ago rather than what you ate at your last meal. So really just be mindful of what you're eating and try and get less filler foods, cheap foods, things like grains, into your diet, and more vegetables and fruit and fresh food. Then you're going to start to feel just a little bit better.